Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this April 19th work session. Up first today, we have Meredith's Goal for Bold goals. We have Dr. Katari.
Thanks for your time, allowing us this slot today. City Council, administrators, thank you very much for your time and listening to us.
Of course, thank you.
I moved to Hagerstown when I was 4 years old, 1973. Lived in the Woodland Way area.
Grab a mic.
No, go ahead. Lived in the Woodland Way area where I went to elementary school, then moved over to Dunurban Drive and went to Summit, to elementary school over at, not Summit, over by the city park.
Surrey.
Surrey.
Surrey, oh, yeah.
So I call Hagerstown home ever since. So thank you guys for everything you do. I know sometimes you feel like your work is thankless, but I want to thank you for everything you guys do on behalf of our citizens in our city.
You
I don't
wanna
often
trade
come
the
here.
mic there?
Oh, sure. I don't come here often in front of you. My name is Mitesh Katari. I'm an OBGYN physician in town. And it's an exciting time to be part of Hagerstown. A lot of great things are happening, a lot of visionary things that are happening. And I want to talk about something that we have going on in the healthcare community. If you haven't already heard about it, we want you to hear about it. And we do have an ask of you today. And I believe right now is the most visionary time. Visionary leaders like Malik and the folks here sitting in front of you are really thinking big and trying things that this community needs. You've probably heard for the Go for Bold challenge that we have initiated. And the goal is over a 10-year period of time for this community to lose £1 million. So million's a big number. It's hard to think about and put in perspective. Other towns like ours have done it. And so we know we can. And with the right resources and the right leadership, we feel like we can do this. As we've gone along, you're going to hear a little bit about the successes we've had so far. But one of the things I think is the biggest impediment to us being successful in this challenge is getting people to know that it's happening and to participate and to register. We could lose £1 million and not know it because people didn't register and log their weight. And then we can't celebrate that together as a community and be able to use that to our advantage in improving our own self-image and our own self-confidence and believing in ourselves. And so we're ready to put forth our time, our resources, our organization, help the city with things like the Hub City Challenge and other things that are going on. Let people know about it so more people can participate and actually get healthier. So we want to introduce you to the challenge today, and we're hoping that you guys will help us enroll the city employees. So far, of the registered users, a majority are Meredith employees because it's the project that got started and has a lot of energy behind it at Meredith. We need that kind of energy at the county administration, at the city administration, and then with individual businesses, Chamber of Commerce, et cetera, et cetera. So we're out spreading the message, and we're hoping you guys can help us with at least an audience that you have some influence with, and that is your own employees, and hopefully the citizens of the city as well. So we're hoping you help us with that, and we'll get a little bit further into this. Who's next?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Alan Twigg. I'm Executive Director for Community and Behavioral Health at Meredith Health. Thanks for hearing this today. We've been working on a community health needs assessment for over 10 years, and one of the health priorities that consistently is at the top of the list is overweight and obesity. We know it's an issue for Washington County and Hagerstown residents. In fact, for adults, nearly 70% of our adult population falls in one of these two categories. That's why it's so important that we focus on this effort to reduce weight and obesity. So thinking about other chronic health factors, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, joint disorders, these are all related to weight status. So we have our campaign called Go for Bold to lose £1 million over the course of 10 years. And let me turn it over to Molly to say how we're doing.
Great, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Malik Joshi from Meredith Health. I want to thank all of you for what you do for the leadership in our community. Thank Dr. Katari, who's been leading this for many years before this in terms of the health of our community, both as a doctor and as a community leader. So £1 million is a lot, but I have full confidence that we will hit it, and we will hit it together, because we have all the resources. And as Dr. Katari and Alan have talked about, it's just getting us engaged and participating. There's no doubt about it. There's amazing work that's happening, and I'm going to turn over to Maria in a second to talk about wise leadership. But goal is lose 1 million pounds. We're already at 30,300 pounds just from the last 2 years during a pandemic. And that's a lot of Meritus Health employees, but we have many others as well. So 30,000 is a start, and we're looking to go obviously much faster year by year. But it's so exciting because health and healthcare are all connected, and the health of this community is all about this community thriving. So we're excited, and thank you for considering this as we move forward. Maria.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and I'm here not as Maria from the Y, okay? I am the co-chair of the campaign, and along with Dr. Katari, and we work with the community partners, which City of Hagerstown is signed on as a community partner. But I just want to publicly say the things that Mayor Keller and the City Council are doing right now in our community are going to be key to this moving forward, because with the indoor multi-purpose stadium and the baseball stadium and the different things that are coming downtown and the emphasis on the overdose situation. I probably never shared, but I will. My sister was passed away of an overdose from an opioid addiction. So it's near and dear to my heart too. So things like this matter. And it's not about just losing 1 million pounds. That's sort of the end goal of what happens. But in order for these projects in the community to be successful, it's all about healthy spirit, mind, and body. They all go together in a triangle. And if you are aware of the Y logo in the past, the triangle was about healthy spirit, mind, and body. And in order for us to be successful and the city to be successful with their new projects, it depends on the whole health of the community. And this, while we're saying, yes, lose 1 million pounds, but it's more than that. It's what do our employees feel like when they go to work every day? How do they feel about themselves? Are they happy? Are they healthy? Are they feeling good? Are they, it's 2 years of a pandemic has really taken a toll on people. And this is a perfect time with everything you guys are doing to work together with this group and everybody to kind of emerge together outside of the tunnel and get on the other side. And we're going to rev up slow, but I think once people see more pounds being lost and more initiatives happen, within the city and on the outskirts of the city, they're going to jump on the bandwagon, because what people like, they like to feel like they're winning at something, you know what I mean? And we would love to see this community I've been here only 30 years. I didn't grow up here, but I've lived here longer than anywhere else I've lived in my life. And I've been hearing for years, oh, Hagerstown, you're never going to make it. I worked in Frederick, but I always lived here. It's going to make it. We're going to ride the coattails of all the awesome stuff you guys are doing and this initiative, and I think we can make it. It just takes everybody working together, and not forget to keep it in the forefront of your mind all the time, because it's going to be so important to the success of the projects that are coming down in the next couple of years. So anything I can do as the co-chair, anything the Y can do, in that initiative to help the city with anything at all, just reach out anytime, any place, any second, and we're there to help you.
Thank you.
And so I get to give the ask. But I'll tell you, it's been really, someone's got to put the chief health officer up to it. But, I'm first and foremost a family doctor, and it's been great to settle into this community. And I think relationships matter, and relationships really sustain us. And I've had great conversations, I think, with all of you about this effort and what we're doing, together. Nobody likes to be in last place. So during the pandemic, all of those health outcomes, we dropped 6 spots as a community, and we're like in the bottom quartile, and nobody wants to be there because we know that we're better than that. We know there's good going on. So our ask is to really get the employees of the city of Hagerstown to be involved in this, because the community doesn't get credit unless we get people registered to sign up. So many people are already doing really good things, so we're not asking you to replace the good things you're doing. If you're doing MyFitnessPal or Noom or Weight Watchers or whatever you're doing, but the community doesn't get credit unless you go on and you register and you log in there. So we're asking to have the 400 city employees and family members, so it could be more than 400, register in healthywashingtoncounty.com and try to register by June 30th. We want you to sign up individually and choose the City of Hagerstown in the drop-down menu, because all of our partners, as the last slide showed, have their logo have that in there to sort of create a fun spirit. This should feel fun. It shouldn't feel like a big rock to overcome, but you're already a partner. We'd love to see that activity, and that's the way we can help you track that activity. We're not asking you to redesign the employee wellness plan, but just to participate in this as a key part of it. And then commit to having those 400 users record their weight at least twice by the end of the calendar year, by 12/31, and another 2 times by June 30th of 2023. So simply 2 times by the end of this year and 2 times by the end of the fiscal year in 2023. Now, a lot of people are logging their weight more frequently just as an accountability tool, and they're going in weekly or monthly. It doesn't matter, but our ask was simply to do 2 times by the end of the year. And then, to encourage activity, healthy eating, and stress management. So that go for bold, play on Olympic words, do, eat, and believe in a healthy Washington County is increasing activity, making healthier food choices, and then the mental health piece, decreasing anxiety, depression. We know that that's also related to obesity and so many other issues. And that's simply the ask.
All right, I think we can do that.
I think we can handle
I'm
it.
in.
I need it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I'm gonna challenge the county commissioners. They're a partner.
That'd be good, that'd be great, because we presented to them, and they're, and also,
We're so competitive.
Oh, yes.
we can get you guys in on some prizes and different things too, like if
We
you
can't win
guys.
prizes,
What's
Kim.
that?
We're not allowed to win prizes.
As long as they're under $25.
No, the employees.
The employees?
The
we
employees,
can't.
no, I didn't mean you, the employees who sign up for like incentives for things.
We still can under 25.
A couple things. Everything was well said. Thank you, guys. And I just want to say that the Healthy Washington County website is the software that sort of tracks everything. We do make it easy. If you register with an email, you'll actually get a link to your email periodically asking you to just click a button and put in your weight. It's that simple. We've really worked on the technology to make it fast. It's anonymous. Make sure everyone knows it's anonymous. No one's going to know who's lost what or who's gained what. All the data is anonymous. And also, whoever the administrator is that you pick for the city, whether it be HR or someone, they would get a report from time to time saying how many employees have registered, how many more people have registered since last time, and the total weight lost. So that can be something that's advertised in your newsletters and things like that. But the more this is in front of people, the more people are going to be encouraged to do it. We all know that if it's presented to you once, you might say, that sounds interesting. But then if it comes back to you a second, or third, or fourth time, but sometimes the third or fourth time is the time you finally register. So we do need that repetition. We need you to continue to urge your folks to do it. Costs nothing, and I think the gain is significant. So we're always a resource if you guys need us. I know, Mayor Keller, you have my email. You're welcome to send anything to me you need, and we'll help you. And again, we'll have emails going out to folks saying, hey, there's something interesting going on this weekend. There's a 5K or this. And so we'll give resources, and we'll make things available to the people that register to help them get to that loss. But
And if people have already, in the last 2 years, have already been on a weight loss journey or a fitness journey, and they haven't been on the weight tracker, they can put their starting weight and then bring down to where they are now. So because of COVID, it's been hard to, it fits and starts with COVID. You start something, it stops. You start something, you stop. If they've already started a weight loss journey, put in your highest weight. And it does remind you gently every Monday morning to weigh in. And there's no penalty if you go back up a little bit. It doesn't add back to the number. It's just whatever weight you start with, it's down from there. There's no penalty because sometimes we do fluctuate up and down.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a simple ask, but to ask 400 people to register is not as simple as it seems. It's going to take some effort. We really hope you'll put that effort forward, and anything we can do to help you, please let us know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
I need something else to do. Wait till we're in and out. We're wrong with each.
All that.
All right, up next we have the preliminary agenda review. So we will meet on April 26th, call the meeting to order, have the invocation by somebody. Anyone want to volunteer?
You got it this month?
Okay.
Okay. Bob, pledge the flag. We'll have announcements. We'll meet Tuesday, May 3rd, 10th, and 17th at 4 p.m. and May 24th at 7 p.m. We have a proclamation for Horizon Goodwill Industry Week, and we'll have citizen comments. You can still send an email to councilcomments@hagerstownmd.org no later than 5 p.m. if you don't want to come in person. We have a public hearing for the Surrey Conversion District Overlay Zone, approval of the minutes, the consent agenda for Department of Community and Economic Development, open container law exemption for Imagine Hagerstown music events. For engineering, we have municipal stadium historic documentation for $15,004.44. Change order to remove and replace 150 feet of alley 2-135 for $38,700. Robotic hybrid total station for field surveying for $30,595. Relocation and reinstallation of public art due to construction of the baseball stadium for $40,350. Replace the dehumidification system and improve air quality in building for $253,900. The fire department, we have Unication G5 pager for $17,671.50. IT is a Sonic Wall Advanced Gateway Security Suite firewall renewal for $12,953.99. For police, we have the gas chromatography, that's a big warrant extension for $34,596. Annual Mid-Atlantic Regional Gang Investigators Network Conference co-sponsorship for $15,000. Utilities, electric revenue meter test device for $27,500. RC Wilson phone system upgrade for $12,731.72. Hydrant replacements for $25,381.92. Self-copper tubing for $41,922. RC Wilson emergency action plan, $26,768. Smithsburg Reservoir Dam Engineering Services for emergency planning, $34,975. Mixers for BNR process, $117,131.49. And VFD pumps for $19,025.97. Under unfinished business, we'll have approval of an ordinance for the conveyance of a portion of the Hagerstown Cultural Trail and a conveyance of Hood Street. For new business, we have an introduction of an ordinance, zoning map amendment, Eklund Local Conversion District Overlay Zone, and introduction of an annexation resolution for Unger annexation, approval of an annexation plan for Unger annexation, introduction of a charter amendment resolution, repeal and reenact with amendments, Charter Article 7, Section 717, approval of a resolution, Third Amendment to purchase and sale agreement for portion of 441 South Potomac Street. We'll have approval of ASME 1540 labor contract, approval of ASME 3373 labor contract, approval of on-call plumbing services contract, approval of elevator maintenance services contract, approval of on-call electrical maintenance services contract, approval to add central lot parking sites to the city's competitive negotiated sale process, approval of Leaf Street screen art contract, and approval for solicitation of MEA grant funding to replace certain light fixtures with LED. We will have city administrator comments, mayor, council comments, and we'll adjourn. And we also have two other things under police that we need to add, which you guys have copy of here. One is a grant award that needs to be accepted by early May. And the other, is this what?
This one.
The other is also to award and purchase this proposal attached. So we have Nick Farner here today if you guys have any questions.
This is just a high, this is just a high-end, cameras, right? Net.
That, yes, that's the camera client that run all of our cameras for the city.
I'm good. I'm cool.
Okay. Thank you. All right, up next we have fiscal year '23 budget review. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
So we're back this evening. We're hoping to actually just touch upon and finish, if we could, the general fund section. I think last time we hit a couple of still high-level details across the budget message. And just as a reminder, the budget message is approximately 48 pages. It's in the very first section, section 1 of the budget book. It is also hard copy prints of just the 48 pages is here for anybody who wishes. In addition to the entire budget document being loaded on our website, the 48 pages that is the budget message is also on our website. It is actually on the landing page and is part of one of the highlight sections. Again, the reason we're doing this is because within the 48 pages, you can pretty much get a feel for the entirety of the budget process without looking through the whole document, because sometimes it gets a little confusing for people as they're trying to find things because there is just so much detail in our document. So, with that said, I'll let Brooke start.
Okay. I am gonna pick up right where I left off last week in section 2, page 5, which is revenues and other financing sources. This schedule has multiple categories of revenue that total $54.7 million in the general fund, up 11.8% from FY22. Each line item here has its own dedicated page behind. Since we've already covered property taxes pretty heavily, I'm going to look at the second highest category, which is income and other taxes on page 8, section 2.
Could that number change when the county decreases?
Possibly, yeah. This already has the initial budget in, but not the most recent one, right? So the 3.1 million is up 10.7%. That's assuming a little, getting back to pre-pandemic numbers. Enterprise zone tax credits is up 49.1%. This factors in 2 North Point buildings and a tractor supply building.
And just as an overall reminder, the enterprise zone tax credits, the tax credits are good for a 10-year period for anybody who is eligible. They go through the county to submit the information. And actually, the $500,000 is a large total for the city of Hagerstown since this program has been implemented. So yes, the fact that we have 2 buildings, as we mentioned, North Point and Tractor Supply, and both of those are going to, the one building will be in year 2, the other will be in year 1. So as a reminder, the first 5 years, 80% of the total real estate tax bill is waived. And then the city of Hagerstown receives 50% of that back from the state. And that's what's encompassed in that line.
Another line item that's seeing high increases is hotel motel tax. Again, just kind of getting back to pre-pandemic levels. And that's the kind of detail you'll see on all those line items. I'm not going to go through every page. Those are over the next few pages.
And then just as a final thought, because I know there's been some recent activity there, but the main item, the 3.1 million on the state local income taxes, as a reminder, the amount and the percentage that is the state local income tax that comes out of, most employees see it come right out of their payroll deduction as long as you live within the state of Maryland and reside within Washington County. The county establishes that, and it can range anywhere from 2.8% to 3.2%. So the city does not get to set that limit. It was just reduced by the county in January of this calendar year, and it is currently proposed by the county, if I understand correctly, maybe even a week or 2 ago, that it will be decreased again another 0.5%. That will mean a loss of revenue for us. It will mean a bigger loss of revenue for the county, but it definitely is a loss of revenue for us. So one of the things for us to be aware of is I might not hit that limit.
It's a really good thing they have a fully funded fire and EMS service.
Can't hear you, man.
I said it's a really good thing they have a fully funded fire and EMS service. I can't.
Councilmember Perucci.
Okay, so then I'm going to switch over to expenditures on page 15. Each department has its own dedicated page. I'm not going to go through every department, but I'm going to use planning and code as an example on page 36. Each department has its own program overview, program objectives, performance indicators, expenditure and revenue summaries. Some departments have revenue, and you'll see that deducted from their actual expenditures. So for example, this one, $370,000 is their net expenses. Then there's some language on material changes and a staffing summary. Some departments have further detail. For example, planning and code breaks it down further by planning, annexation, and code administration.
And again, this detail is listed for every single area within the general fund. So they will all have these same components whenever you look at them. Planning and code administration, as Brooke just mentioned, is one of the, not every area would have multiple departments within their specific division. But again, this is the expense side. But I do just want to stop because on this section, if you flip to page 38, you will see at a glance. So the code administration expenses, for example, is at like 1.7 of the total that you see for the overall, all of planning and code. And then the revenue is at 1.8. So the majority of that revenue that's reflected is actually directly attributable to code administration. It's one of the few and only departments within the general fund that is self-supporting without needing additional tax dollars to help cover their expenses.
Okay, and we're gonna flip forward to page 60, which is unallocated expenses. These are expenses that don't necessarily fit in any department. The only one I'm really gonna focus on today is agency contributions. FY23 is the first year in a few years where we're kind of back to our normal, policy numbers and the core 8 agencies. There's no, special extra contributions. So those agencies are Washington County Museum of Fine Arts, CRS, Hagerstown Municipal Band, HNDP, Maryland Symphony Orchestra, Maryland Theater, Washington County Free Library, Washington County Historical Society, and then there's $10,000 in there as unspecified to contribute as you want, for a total of $205,000.
So this should coincide with how we left everything when we met in October. Per policy, we come every October, and this body and this group say, how many number of agencies are there going to be, and what is the total dollar amount? So the total dollar amount we landed on was $205,000. It's been about that much on average for all the years, but as Brooke mentioned, this is the first year in quite some time. Not that we're getting back to normal after a pandemic, but that we're getting back to normal levels because we had done additional pledges, like to the Maryland Theater for their project, for the HVAC system at the Art Museum, and a little bit of money that we did to the Discovery Station over a 3-year period. So these numbers, when you look year over year and you look at the lines for like Community Rescue Service, it looks like we're giving them a large increase, but the reality is that's the number and that's the amount that we were allocating out of our $200,000 before to them. It's just that they were one of the areas that were that you could see the most decrease in as we were giving the allocations away in other pledges.
Okay, and then the last page I'm going to cover in this section is the next page on page 61, Schedule of Public Functions. These are all the events budgeted out of the general fund for FY23, broken out by public function events and recreation events for a total of $286,000. And just 2 points to note about this schedule is that this does not include any revenue, such as sponsorships, and this is also what we use to report back to the county for hotel motel tax revenue.
So yes, both of those, they fit within the culture and recreation eligibility requirements for how you utilize your hotel motel dollars that you receive.
Well, hopefully we get to spend the $22,000 on Lumber State Parade.
Yeah.
All right, so, and again, that pretty much in the general fund, we really didn't have anything large that changed from fiscal year 23 proposed budget. That's why we've not spent a lot of time like drilling down on all these individual numbers, but just trying to make sure everybody is aware and knows where the information is, covering the things that are changing here and there. So if if we could, still take a couple minutes and flip to section 6 in the general fund financial projections, and that way we'll be totally finished with the general fund. The financial projection section just is very good source information. It is not to the dollar, so the number you see here is rounded to the thousand, so don't be surprised when this number looks smaller than the actual dollars we were looking at before. It is the same, it's just that they're rounded. There'll be 2 years of historical information in these charts, followed by fiscal year 22 revised budget and actual, and then we'll see fiscal year 23 budget plus another 4 years of projections or estimates. And these projections and estimates really are built based on trends and, to the best of our ability, what we know right now. So on page 3 is revenue. So for the general fund revenue, in the middle of the page, you'll see fiscal year 23. I want to just take a minute to concentrate in the out years and pretty much just the very first one. So fiscal year 24. Anywhere from fiscal year 23 to the fiscal year 24, you see a column. If it has an S in that column, it means that there is a separate schedule that will be in the pages behind page 3, and you will see more details there that come back to that specific line item. If there is a flat overall percentage increase, that's when you will see a percent reflected in the column. And then for those things that don't have a separate schedule or specific flat increase for year over year, it will be left blank. I just want to take a minute to point out for fiscal year 24, we are estimating total property taxes would go to $36 million, which is 2.6% higher than where we have fiscal year 23 budget. Doesn't sound like a lot for a year coming into a new triennial assessment, but based on our most recent history, we haven't had any increases at all, and not increasing it too much because we've already increased fiscal year 23 significantly over where SStat reports have told us. So again, we'll have more details on that by like November, December timeframe of this calendar year to know where we're going to end. And then over half of the way down the page is a line where we added needed revenue source. So what that number reflects in the out years is just simply, we've assumed that there's going to be no new revenue stream and no big changes in any of the services or the expenses. So if nothing else changes and our revenue does not grow at the same amount as our expenses, we're going to need to find an additional $3.8 million, the highlighted number, to balance by the time we come back and present fiscal year 24. Hopefully, we will see some of that reflected in the growth and all the positive things that are happening as long as our assessed values grow, right? If we flip the page 4, I won't spend a lot of time here. It's the expenses. So the first page is the revenue. Page 3 was the revenue. Page 4 is the expenses. Again, all the columns are the same, but if you come down over halfway, you see the surplus deficit. So not quite $2,000 for fiscal year 23 budget, and then in the out years, 0. But the big information here is reflecting what our rates are for our real estate and our personal property tax rates. At this time, we did not include a tax rate increase for any future year in our projections. Again, at this time, is a caveat. But again, this also reflects for every single penny that we change on our real estate taxes, so for every penny that we would increase, so in the fiscal year 23 budget, we would generate an additional $285,000. With the growth that we have estimated in fiscal year 24, if we were to increase a penny, that would generate an additional $293,000. Or likewise, if we were to decrease, that's how much additional revenue we would have to compensate for. I do want to take a minute to jump us to page 9. All the other pages are information on revenue. A lot of it's on property tax revenue, which we covered the first week and also a little bit in detail last week, so I don't want to focus there again. But I do want to go to page 9, and this is where the detail starts on our expenses. And the one that I'm looking at is salaries and wages and benefits. And the reason that I want to take a minute to stop here is because by far and large, across the entire city, salaries, wages, benefits is our largest expense categories. And in the general fund, that is no different. So again, all the columns are the same, but this breaks it down a little bit so you can see base wages at the top, and then we show you overtime, and then a column, a row for total wages. And then at the bottom, we got fringe benefits. So you're going to notice big increases in overall wages in the fiscal year 23 budget compared to fiscal year 22. And we have included that going forward in the out years. So for fiscal year 24, the percentages at the very top, we got 5%, 4.6%, 4.5%, 4%. That's what we're looking at right now as an estimate on base salaries for full-time employees. And then the actual percentages, because there's other activities. There's part-time and seasonal employees, and then there's things like when people leave and they get paid vacation time. All that's reflected in here, as well as vacancies. The bottom half is our benefits. I do want to just mention on our benefits, we have active employee section and retiree section. And as of the end of the calendar year of 2021, over 41% of the total participants in our health insurance plans are retirees and retiree dependents or spouses. 41% of all of our health insurance costs. 41% of the number of people, right? And in the general fund alone, that cost for retirees is $1.5 million. So again, that's a very large number, and honestly, that number is creeping higher and higher. We're getting to the point where we're almost getting to where the amount of retirees that's covered in our plan is equal. It's almost a 50-50 split, and at that point, we're really going to have to take into considerations that maybe there's things we need to change up in the way we're doing with our retiree insurance, because it gets to be a point where we can no longer financially sustain it. The only other thing I do want to mention is in the pension side, they're under benefits, the third and fourth row down, we separate out pension for police and fire because that's our own plan, and the employer contribution is set at 14% of salaries and wages. The next line down is the pension for the state of Maryland plan, and the state of Maryland mandates and sets forth what we have to contribute. And for fiscal year 23, that went to 10.93% of salaries and wages. And then just finally, I do want to look real quick on page 12, which is just general fund, and it's just overall annual debt service. And so what happens is we have to pay out principal and interest payments on any new bonds that we get. In our current fiscal year 23 budget, we are not anticipating any new bonds, but we did have them included in fiscal year 24. So we just want you to see the impact. The good news for fiscal year 23 is we have one of our bonds, our 2005-2006 public facilities bonds, that was paid off in fiscal year 22. So that's always good whenever we can pay off one of our bonds before we issue a new one. That helps us out. But again, keep a close eye on this. I am watching this very vigilantly. If we end up funding, how much we end up funding for our Hagerstown Fieldhouse project that has to be bond financed will come into play with what we can do and how we can fund and do other capital and CIP projects for the rest of the city. Any questions for the general fund? If not, we'll be back the second week of May, or the first week of May, I'm sorry. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll probably start with CDBG, economic redevelopment, and then go to capital. Kind of change it up a little bit. Typically, we do capital first, but we want to make sure that we have opportunity to cover CDBG the first week in May.
Sounds good.
Thanks for
Thank you.
Thanks, Brooke. And we have the reprogramming of unspent 2019 tax-exempt public improvement bond.
Take it away, Councilman Perucci. This one's all you. I'm just teasing. Only because I can't hear him and I'm not used to being so far away from him. He'll get me back next week. Okay, so we have an opportunity, when we issue tax-exempt bonds, there's only certain things that are eligible if it's going to be tax-exempt, and if it is tax-exempt, we have to follow even more strict bond covenants on what we spend, how we track and monitor all the actions formal actions that are needed. So we did a $3.1 million bond in 2019. And one of those projects was our Pangbourne Lake reconstruction. We successfully completed that project, and Ronnie did a fantastic job, and it came in under budget. So we have monies left, which is a great thing. But what happens is, for me to be able to utilize that anywhere else, I have to come back to this body, and then we have to have this discussion, and then we have to have some ordinances passed as well as a resolution. So I just wanted to take this opportunity. We're going to have about $146,000 left. Again, to find a project to put this to, it has to be shovel-ready and ready to go, like, immediately. And because it's 2019, we have to be very conscious of timing. So this is the other reason why I'm bringing it now. The projects are finished, which is a good thing, but we have to spend all this money within a certain amount of time. So one of the project that I'm recommending at this point was one that was in the fiscal year 22 budget. It's absolutely ready to go. It would need the $146,000 and maybe just a little bit more, and it would be for another snow dump truck. So if nobody has any concerns or problems with that, what would happen next is at the special session in May, scheduled for May the 10th, we would introduce an ordinance. At the next special session that we already have for the following week, which is May 17th, we would adopt it. And then at the regular session at the regular session at the end of May, so May 24th, we would have the consent agenda form ready from Public Works for the truck purchase. The ordinance would be effective June 17th, so that means for the June regular session, which would be June 28th, we could adopt the resolution. Anybody have any questions?
That's good.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have transportation priorities. So Rodney Tissue.
Supposed to send Rodney a picture, and I didn't do it. Sorry, Rodney.
Send me your picture.
All right, sorry. Is that what you're here for? I heard your name was
That's what I'm here for.
Shoot, just remember.
Good afternoon, everybody. Every year, I come in around this time of year to ask about our transportation priorities. We put together a list and we send it to the state, and it goes into their consolidated transportation plan. Some projects like I-81, we ask over and over and over. Some projects, though, like sidewalks on the dual highway and traffic signals, pedestrian safety stuff, we've put in this letter, and it happened because it's in this letter. So it is important. So we just put together a list of the projects that we would suggest. We need to put a letter for the mayor's signature together to send to Secretary Portis, and based on your feedback. So I'll just go through these really quickly. ID1, I think, is always our top priority for our community, to complete it from Maryland Route 63 up to the Pennsylvania line. With the federal infrastructure funding that's available now, there's always that possibility and that hope that we can get another phase completed, maybe up to Halfway Boulevard. I know that part's under design right now. So our support of that, I think, is important. The state conducted a bicycle and pedestrian priority area study of our downtown, and specifically around the Bester Elementary School, made a lot of recommendations about what they call the countdown traffic signals that make people feel safer when they're crossing the street, improved crosswalk markings, speed management on West Washington Street by doing some techniques there. And then as we get more pedestrians downtown, the stadium's getting built, some of the traffic signals in and around that area should also be reconstructed with, like, the pedestrian countdown signals. So we can ask for funding to rebuild some of those. The specific one is Potomac at Baltimore Street, and then I think eventually the one at Antietam at Summit would be a key one as well. So we want them to fund those programs. The Park Circle Railroad crossings is one I've been asking for at least 5 years, and I just can't get anybody's attention. The state said they'll fund those crossing improvements. It would be an excellent improvement, especially the one on Walnut Street, which is just a disaster. Everybody knows that, but it should definitely be on this list, and we'll just keep pushing as much as we can. Eastern Boulevard Corridor is just improvements, specifically the project, just to ask the state to continue their work on Route 64, Jefferson Boulevard and Eastern Boulevard. There's a major project on there with the county to widen Eastern in that intersection, and that'll start later this year. But also other improvements in that whole corridor. And of course, our project on Professional Court is coming later this year, where we widen it, connect it to the bridge that was built last year, and then that will change the traffic patterns in that corridor significantly. And we've gotten a lot of federal funding help with that project as it gets ready to go out to bid. A lot of programs we've tapped into over the years. We've gotten millions of dollars from the retrofit sidewalk program, the bikeway grants, the TAP grants, and especially the safe routes to school, where we put in a lot of sidewalks and traffic signal improvements, pedestrian crosswalks especially. And then the last thing I had on here was highway user revenue, but it's my understanding that they passed House Bill 1187, which increases funding for highway user revenue to the municipalities significantly. It'll go up this year. It'll go even higher over the next couple years. So I think we just want to say thank you for that. I will say, no one likes paying gas tax. The holiday just ended. No one likes paying it. I don't like paying it. But that is what funds this program, and this program is what funds paving the streets, fixing the sidewalks, and replacing alleys. So there is, it is a tax that's used for good things, I think.
I appreciate you saying that, because there was a lot of controversy about that being voted down or not extended, and the municipalities were going, wait, that's how we get money. I mean, it's important.
Every
So-
single penny of it, Michelle will tell you, goes to paving roads and
Absolutely.
fixing infrastructure.
And it has been very good. We have been very fortunate as they slowly been doing it. We've been able to incorporate some of our alleyways, because prior to that, we were doing bond issues.
Yeah.
I mean, it got to that point, because we couldn't keep up, right?
Take it back. Take it back.
So that's our suggested list. And we could add anything or change anything you'd like.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you guys, any questions? I do, since you're here, and this is off topic, but just because I've gotten a couple questions about it today, do you have any update on the fence at
Oh,
City
yeah.
Park? I know this is like,
Such a sore subject.
It is a sore subject.
I know it's
It's
a
been
subject,
good.
that's
I
what
feel
I tell
badly about
everyone.
Originally, we had a contractor that basically just didn't perform, didn't order the fence. We had to terminate the contract with them. That took 6 months. Last year, we rebid it. We got a contractor, and they couldn't get the fence. Their supplier kind of jerked them around, and in the end, they had to go to a new supplier, so they had to go back to the end of the line and ask for it. 16 weeks lead time from the time the order's placed. So it's projected that the fence will be here in mid-June, and we'll get it installed right after that. But
That's what I knew
it's
there was
terrible,
contractor
and
drama.
I apologize. There's nothing that we did as staff, but it needs replaced.
And sorry to put you on the spot, I just know
That's
people
fine.
watching have been asking that.
And it's the exact fence that we put in over at Pangborn.
Which looks so good.
That was a different supplier, but it worked out there, but, you
Yeah.
know, we're kind of at the mercy of the supply chain issues right now.
We don't have
As
any of
other people
those.
are. Don't mind them.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
we'll get it
Thank
done.
you.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, up next, we have review of the annexation plan for Unger Farm.
Hello.
Hi, Megan.
So we're here to review the annexation plan for Unger Farm, which is 1302 Virginia Avenue. We received the annexation petition from the owner. And again, the property is 1302 Virginia Avenue. It's around 115 acres. And the proposed city zoning would be residential moderate density, which is comparable to the current zoning in the county, which is residential urban. And then the contract purchaser plans to do a single-family detached residential development. Planning Commission reviewed the plan and proposed zoning last week, and they're good with the zoning. And I think the next thing would be introduction of the resolution and approval of the plan on April 26th, and then I think we would aim for a public hearing in late June. So I attached the annexation plan and the plat, and then we have an updated plat too, with just updated notations that was requested by the engineering department.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Guys have any questions?
Nope.
I feel like every time you come up here, it's super easy.
Yeah.
We need to give you a hard time sometime.
I've never seen this, but we can.
Well, I can
But you
answer.
had to say.
Do you want?
Sure.
Did you have one?
No, I was just,
I thought you maybe you did.
no.
We're gonna give you a hard time sometime, just
No,
because.
Bob's about to.
No, I'm not gonna give her a hard time, no, I absolutely agree with this. But, do we have any idea of what the prices of these single-family detached?
I'm not sure if we have.
That's just been a big topic, on the
I don't think
social
they're-
media channel.
I don't.
We've been working with the landowner, and there is a development company, it's a national builder. I don't know exact point prices, but it's market rate, single-family, good housing. But do I know if it's 250 or 350? I don't know. I think it's a little too early at that point, at this point. But it's, I don't know if I'm at liberty to say the particular developer's name, but we've seen their work. They do excellent work all across the country, so.
That's
And
good to
it's
hear.
And it's single-family homes, just so we're
Right,
clear,
right,
single-family
single-family.
detached.
Single family detached.
Thank you.
Megan, you also just avoided the question.
I didn't know the answer to that question. I didn't think we had prices.
Yeah, that's why we let you go. You were like, "Ding."
Thank you.
Thank you. Acting City Administrator.
I apologize, I'm channeling my Mr. Nice Warner vibe, so I have just a couple of quick things. First and foremost is thoughts and prayers out to the Nice Warner family today and for the next couple of weeks. This Saturday, there are several events happening around town, starting with Rock the Run 5K event, the Hub City 100 Miler Final Mile Walk, and Arbor Day and an Earth Day celebration. And then just aside from that, which is all positive and good news, probably not so happy or good news, I just want to take an opportunity to mention, I would be very remiss if I didn't, that in the midst of, and we heard Rodney talk about some supply chain issues he's having, we've been notified now by like at least 5 of our companies that we deal with on a routine basis. So many companies have now implemented a surcharge. And what they are doing is, they charge for the supply and they charge for delivery, and now some are charging as low as 9% on the total, and some are charging 12%, and some are simply saying, hey, we're doing a surcharge. Here's the quote for your items. At the point that we deliver and you get your invoice, whatever the surcharge is at that time, it will fluctuate. We can't tell you what it's going to be until you get the invoice. So I'm just saying that because we definitely are seeing things as a result of supply chain shortage, and then some literally I saw today on some that came through from the water area of all places. They got this big paragraph and they're writing, due to the war and different things, and some are saying because of the gas prices. And we have no recourse.
Yeah.
So, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinez?
I just wanted to thank, I'm not sure of his name, but I was upstairs and my granddaughter came running up the stairs and she said, Nan, the police are outside. And so I looked out my bedroom window and there was an officer sitting right by my back door. And so I came downstairs and Renasia was like, my daughter was in the kitchen. She said, she ran straight past me to come tell you, Mom. And they're out there talking to my neighbor, who is a retired police officer. And so, but I opened the back door and I just said to the officer, could you say hi to my grandbabies? Because they think that police only come when there's something wrong. And I would like for them to learn today that police are a part of community. And so he said, yeah, I'm just catching up with an old friend. And so that was really, really a good moment for me and my family. And so I just want to thank HPD for always, anytime I got my grandbabies and they're like, are you to get bad people and all of that, they always kind of lean down and, give them a little hug and a nudge and let them know they're part of community too. So that's it.
I love that. Councilmember Burnett. Councilmember Berluci. All right, I just have two things. One, Teacher of the Year awards are tomorrow night, and there are several teachers from city schools nominated. So congratulations to everyone, but also especially to our city teachers. And Saturday, the Hagerstown Pony League invited me to throw out the opening pitch on their opening day. I definitely do not have a career in baseball coming up, but I threw it, and they caught it. But they actually, their league has been to the World Series more than any other league in the United States. And I thought that was like a really cool statistic that not a lot of people know, I don't think. So we're lucky to have them. They've been around since the 50s, which I thought was pretty cool. So appreciated the invite. And with that, hope everyone has a good rest of your week. We are adjourned.
Why did you say that to me?
Don't you think that's maturity and growth? I think you should be a hug. I'm serious.
I'm surprised.
I can't remember what it was, something on,
I was sitting around the chief of police and I still share.
municipal, not municipal, called Quarterman and Company. So the bill was originally
I'll check to
written
see what's available
with the money
Hello and welcome to Council Wrap. I'm Wes Decker, joined by City Planner Megan Flick.
Hello.
Megan, a very short time in front of Mayor and Council, as is normally the case, as they pointed out. But now I sort of lassoed you and said, let's talk a little about this annexation process, why it happens, who it's beneficial to. I think both sides benefit in the long run. There's some confusion with annexation. Where would you like to start in sort of laying all of this out and connecting the dots for people?
Sure, yeah, I guess we can start with why the city annexes properties. I guess for the city in their document about annexation, the purpose of annexation is, I guess, to create economic development opportunities for development, to provide services for these developments, and then based on that to increase the city's ability to attract these kind of developments. And then thus increase like the city's accessible base, which is a big one. And then as for, I guess, benefits for being annexed, you get city services, so you get police and fire, I think trash collection, lower fire insurance rates, streets, sidewalks, curbing, gutters, storm drainage, snow removal, garbage collection, all of that city service. And then I guess the city water service specifically, it's a lower rate when you're annexed into the city than it is when you're getting water service and you're outside the city. So I guess that's kind of the benefits, I guess, for both parties and why it happens.
And is that part of the pre-annexation agreement then? How does that work exactly? Because we hear about that a lot. The more we talk about annexations here in council meetings, you hear about pre-annexation agreements
so
and how they're implemented and all of that.
Right, pre-annexation agreements are different in that essentially it's a document where the property owner signs an agreement saying that they will annex in the future when they become contiguous to the boundary in return for receiving city water service.
Okay.
So a lot of the annexations we did in 2021, we already had existing pre-annexation agreements. So by the time the boundary reached those properties, that pre-annexation agreement served as the petition, which meant we could automatically annex them. And that process is initiated by the city. Whereas in this case, the property owner is requesting to annex and they don't have a pre-existing agreement, but because they would like water service and they would like to develop the property, that triggers the city's annexation policy because they're contiguous, that in order to receive the city's water service for this development, they're required to annex. So that's this case.
Okay. Let's get back to pre-annexation just for a moment. Because it's something that has sparked a little bit of controversy at times because of the timing. And as you said, it's something that I guess to some degree you can sort of plot out and say, well, we think that this will happen within a certain amount of time, maybe within a couple of years, whatever it might be. But at the same time, once it happens, then it's like, hey, we weren't quite ready for this right now. And that's when sometimes it comes back before mayor and council.
Yeah, and I think that's where, I guess, if there is ever controversy, I think that's where it comes from. Like those agreements that or I guess the annexations that we did a year or two ago, they signed those pre-annexation agreements in like 2003, 2004. So they maybe thought the city wouldn't reach their property in the next 20 years. Maybe they thought it wouldn't reach them in their lifetime. But essentially they're receiving city water service. So the whole, I guess, point of that is that once the boundary has made it out there, they have to annex as a part of receiving city water service for all of those years being outside the city.
Yeah, and it's just bad luck that for some of those properties it happened during a pandemic. Where all of a sudden your ability to generate revenue is not what it was before, and now all of a sudden you're putting other money, you're spending other money. You have to allocate that for the annexation.
And there are situations too where we have existing pre-annexation agreements that, you know, we could say, okay, we're not going to annex this property yet, but when we do, forewarning, we're going to make it out to you. And I think some of those situations, like we had waited a little bit that they were contiguous, and then when we went ahead and annexed, there wasn't a surprise, but again, I mean, they may have thought that we would have never gotten out there. But yeah, that's for pre-annexation agreements for people who already have an agreement with the city or already receiving city water service. Usually they're already developed, whereas this annexation is raw farmland they want to develop and they want city water service, and because they're right next to the corporate boundary, that triggers annexation policy to annex that whole property.
Okay, makes sense. And
It's a little
clears that up.
confusing,
Yeah, no,
but-
I think that clears that up in
Yeah.
those particular examples.
Mhm.
So I guess my follow-up question to that then would be, is all annexation then generated, I'm not talking about the pre-annexation
Mhm.
agreements, but the annexation, is that all generated by someone coming to the city and saying that we want, as you said as
Mhm.
an example, water service?
Yes, so pre-annexation agreements are always, they want water service, and that's the
Okay.
exchange, is we will
All right.
annex you because you're getting water service. And for regular annexations, like in this case, they probably wouldn't annex unless they wanted city water service. But again, they're creating a residential development, they need water service, they would prefer to have public water. And so because they're already contiguous to the boundary, that's what triggers the annexation.
Okay.
So I guess it depends on the scenario. I mean, again, with certain benefits, with city service, with cheaper water
Yeah.
rates, you know, sometimes people might prefer it and might want it, and other times they might be forced to, or they already signed an agreement any number of years ago saying that they would agree to when that time came. So I guess that's the differentiation
Okay.
between the two scenarios.
So is there ever a time that the city says, hey, we would love to have whomever become part of the
Mhm.
city, we're just going to go out and get them?
Never, no.
Okay.
It's always triggered by a request for water service,
All
because
right.
that's when the annexation policy kicks in.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of confusion for
Mhm.
people, because they're
Yeah.
like, well, the city has the power to just
Mhm.
go out and add, whatever community,
Right.
whatever, property to the city.
Yeah.
And it's like, I
So-
don't believe that's how it works.
No, the mayor and council adopted an annexation policy that states the conditions that will trigger annexation. And then there's also a water and wastewater policy, which is where the pre-annexation process comes in, but there's exceptions to that, where we've seen people come to mayor and council for economic development exceptions, and that's, a whole nother separate thing. But yeah, as far as annexation specifically, it's always tied to water service.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect.
City water service.
Okay, I think
Mhm.
that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Can you take us through the process?
Sure, yeah. So I guess the very first thing, like I said, is the petition to annex. So there's a pre-annexation agreement that serves as the petition. If there's not, which is in this case, it's raw farmland, so the owner submits a petition to annex, which is just a letter requesting to annex,
Okay.
fills out the annexation application, and then from there, I guess the very first thing is we have the planning commission review, or we create an annexation plan at the staff level. We let all the departments review it, all department directors, and then we take it to planning commission, and they review the annexation plan, which just details the property, the address, the acreage, what the proposed city zoning will be, if it's comparable with county zoning, and then it also talks about, like, they'll receive city police, they'll receive city fire service, there's a section on schools. So it kind of covers all of that in like a written plan form. And then the city, or the planning commission reviews that plan, approves the zoning, and like, okay, this is similar to what the current zoning is in the county, it's a comparable zoning.
Right.
It will fit the new development. And then, yeah, what we did today was a work session with mayor and council, which we don't always do a work session. In this case, we did just because it's a new, like I said, raw farmlands, new development coming in. And then the next step from there is the mayor and council introduces the resolution, which will happen next week on the 26th. And at the same time as they introduce the resolution, they also approve the annexation plan.
Okay.
So they're two separate motions, two separate steps. But for some reason, that's how Maryland state law does it. And then there has to be a certain period of time in between. So then the public hearing would probably be late June. And then they would have a separate regular meeting where they would approve and adopt the whole resolution. Then it becomes effective 45 days after they adopt it, unless it goes to referendum, which is if somebody were to argue it.
Okay.
And there's a set of, I guess, specific circumstances that are required. It's very rare that it happens because, again, in this case, the owner is requesting it. And in the case of pre-annexation agreements, that's a legal document that's already been recorded, so it's
Right.
not generally contested or able to be contested, I guess.
So at the initial stage of the game.
Yeah.
When this petition goes to the planning commission, does the city have to be on board? Does the city have to be in agreement with what's being asked at that point?
I think I mean, just as far as like mayor and council and planning commission, it's more of like a review.
Okay.
And then I guess there have been situations where mayor and council or planning commission can recommend specific conditions with a resolution or with adoption of the resolution. There have been cases where it's been delayed or where there have been tax breaks given. There have been some very special exceptions, I think, that happened decades ago. But generally, that doesn't usually happen. Usually, it's pretty cut and dry. It's either owner petition or pre-annexation agreement and then moves through the process, and rarely does it go to referendum.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at, the fact that it's sort of goes one way or the other.
And again, it's dictated by Maryland state law, so we just have to follow every single step of the process. You know, the certain legal advertisements, there has to be a break between the last ad and the public hearing, which is kind of what makes the process go so long. So again, it's April right now, and it won't be effective until maybe August. So that's when, I guess, the property would be officially in the city and start receiving city services, and then I guess the taxes the following fiscal year.
So is the developer able to do anything with the land before all of this?
No,
is passed?
they can do a development or a site plan simultaneously, like they can do the development and annexation process simultaneously, but because there's that chance that the annexation doesn't become effective, generally they wait until the annexation is effective and then they begin the site plan process or the development process. But we usually do, like in this case, have an idea of what the development will be. The Planning Commission usually hears in a workshop from the developer about what the plan will be before we give them the annexation plan. So again, it's all just concepts at that stage, but then the site plan process, I guess, comes later on.
Any other sources of confusion or frequently asked questions that you get as it relates to annexation?
I guess with the taxes, you'd have to pay city taxes. That's probably the biggest point of contention, is that obviously when you're outside the city, you're only paying county taxes. Whereas when you're inside the city, you're paying city taxes and county taxes, but the county tax differential is less when you're inside the city. And then same with water rates. So if you're already receiving water or you would like to receive water, you're gonna have a lower water rate when you're annexed into the city because you're an official city customer.
Right.
I can't think of any other, I guess. I'm sure the process in general is confusing to people. But yeah, essentially annexation is just adding cities or adding properties to the city's corporate boundary and expanding the corporate boundary. This is how cities grow, how cities have been growing and increasing their assessable tax base for a long time. And I think that's probably the confusion, like you said, where they think that the city can just grab whatever.
It's not a land grab.
No, it's not. And most municipalities will have an annexation policy the way that we do, which is it's triggered by a certain request for water service. It's not like the city just goes and annexes every property that's next to the boundary. Especially not, again, with bigger development plans and bigger, I guess, raw farmland that's undeveloped. Most of the time, the owner or developer, if they're contiguous, would prefer to be in the city.
I think it's fair to say there are a few gray areas within the process, but for the most part, it's black and white, as you said, because the same process is always followed.
Right, exactly, and that's dictated by state law, and we have to follow that legally, and even after the annexation becomes effective, there's a whole number of steps that we have to do to get it recorded, to send it to all of the appropriate parties. And I guess that's another point, too, is that the county reviews it, the Tri-County Council reviews it, the state of Maryland reviews it. They're all playing a part in, I guess, review of the annexation plan before it becomes introduced and effective.
Well, Megan, I consider you our I dotter and T crosser as it relates to annexations. And certainly, thanks for educating us a little bit on that, because people have misconceptions, they have questions, there's confusion, everything that goes along with, not to say that there won't be some more, but I think this was a good annexation 101 discussion.
Exactly, at least for the state of Maryland anyway.
That's right.
Every state
That's
is
all we're
different.
covering here. That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough. Thanks again, Megan.
Yeah,
Appreciate
of course.
it.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Wes Decker. We'll see you next time on Council Wrap following the next work session. That'll be a couple weeks from now. Until then, that's a wrap.